Hello, everyone.
Hello. Hey,
Hi.
guys.
Uh,
Nice to see you back in your normal places. Well, actually, not you, Artie, but
no,
away
it's
from me.
normal. It's normal for Artie. Artie's a gay man in a
Yes,
park.
not just any park. I'm in a very special park. The
Oh
kind of
yeah,
park
go
a
on.
gay man would go to.
Oh, okay. Well, sorry to briefly interrupt your day with this highly influential television or YouTube program. Yes, what a week. We actually met each other. We had wonderful. We were going to do it all together this week, but we might have to leave it till next week. But we all met each other at Posey Parker's wonderful event in Brighton, which unfortunately I was very late to because I forgot to factor in all the time I would spend taking the wrong turn on the motorway, driving 4 miles, turning around, coming back, and then getting there. So we were 2 hours late. We missed the smoke bombs. We missed a lot of things.
I didn't.
For our viewers.
Sorry, I say we. You didn't, Helen. Yes, me and Artie.
I was there. I was
I-
there very early. Sorry, Artie. I was there very early. I was there right at the beginning because I went with some of my Southwark Women's Rights Network women, and they were stewarding. So we were there right from the very beginning. So I did see it all. I saw where the idea that there were more of them than us came from. The TRAs, because they were there early. But then our lot, like everyone showed up. My estimate was there were about sort of 400. So Jen is saying that we're repeating. People in the comments, are we being?
I'm not hearing repeats.
I'm not hearing anything. I think that might be your connection. Your connection, Jen.
But listen, just to back up and introduce for a second, we're talking about a rally in Brighton, and I'm in England right now, so all three of us got to be there, and we all got to be there. Although Graham and I got there a little bit later, and Helen was there for the main event to speak. Sorry, go on, just to set up for our viewers.
Yes, I was quite delighted to see that I was, when we all met up, I was quite delighted to notice that I'm much better looking in real life. So that was good. Yeah, so we read, and it was an interesting one because the police kind of had, when we arrived, Helen, I know we'll go back to the start. When we arrived, I was quite shocked by the fact that the group who were trying to speak, the women who were trying to speak, were almost like one side completely surrounded and right up to them. So I'm just so
they pushed forward over the course of the afternoon, but I think two separate people said to me that you can tell that the police know where the trouble is coming from by the way they're facing, and there were quite a number of police there. The police had taken it very seriously this time, and they were facing the TRAs. The TRAs were pushing forward. And the police sort of allowed that to happen, but they also, took away, at least one violent person that I saw. They all surrounded them and him.
It has to be said,
took him away.
The police that were there, I think they were a bit of a noise coming from your one, Artie.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like scraping sound or something.
There you go. How's that?
Yeah, but the police who were there still weren't enough police there because people still don't take this seriously, what's happening. But the police who were there did a fantastic job. The smoke bomb they lifted it over the heads of the crowd and disposed of it. The second time the smoke bomb went off, they disposed of the guy who threw it, and who turned out to be someone whose last targets were those rascals, the Jews. So he has been, this is the second, I noticed that he was absolutely panicking when his face was revealed. And I think that's because this is his second time being arrested this year. The first time was for vandalizing a Jewish center. Artie, do you know more about this? You're nodding.
No, I don't. No.
Sorry.
I just read about it in the news. It's pretty troubling that side is just so obviously not the side that it's not the side that I would want to be associated with.
Well, yeah. There's been things.
No, it is interesting. Sorry, Greg. There was a couple of other things that I wanted to say. First of all, I did want to say, well done to Posey for arranging it and running it efficiently. The women who were doing the stewarding were fantastic. the woman in charge was like phenomenally efficient, and all of the other stewards were excellent. Because it was difficult. It was a long time on your feet. I noticed, Kelly J herself, she did the whole thing, facilitated every woman who wanted to speak, whereas a lot of us, we could sort of mingle around a bit, go to the toilet, get some sandwiches or whatever, and then go back. But, she stood there for the whole thing, just facilitating woman after woman. I was very impressed by her stamina, and all of the women who were doing the stewarding, their stamina as well. And like you said, the police who were there, I thought this time had actually taken it seriously, and they were pretty good. And also the crowd on our side, like the stewards were like, don't engage, and people, there was a bit of toing and froing, but not very much. But the trans activists were unbelievably unpleasant. It was all, like, fuck off, like just literally just shouting, fuck off, you're fascists, get out of Britain. And I loved we're a city of tolerance.
Oh yeah, no, my favorite was the person with the sign that said, trans people just want to be left alone, kind of hitting it over people's heads.
The hypocrisy of it all.
And one person actually brought their own big red flag. They were waving a red flag, which I think it may have been sort of a socialist flag, but they were actually just standing there waving a big red flag, which was very funny.
Yes, absolutely.
And then there was the chaps in black, like really, fully head to toe with the big gloves and the sort of masked off faces. Yeah. And there were a number of women really like viciously shouting and screaming. I suspect there may have been some trans children involved there, to make it so like unbelievably personal. It came across as that this was a massively personal fight for them, where the anger was sort of palpable there. And of course there was the shouting at the fascist Nazi baby.
Right. Yes, I have a picture of that. That's as my friend Bill Moon said, with one of the funniest comments on this, that awkward feeling when someone comes to the thing dressed the same as you.
Yeah.
But this is a woman who's Lloyd Russell, what's his name again? Lloyd Russell, the Labour MP, who I never forget how he looked when he debated a feminist on screen. He was like, it cut to him, he was like this. He was just absolutely just outraged that this person was alive. And it looks like his staff are just as obnoxious as he is. So that was very revealing. Again, one of Venice Allen and Posey's skills is that they just create these moments where you see the kind of bravery and calm of our side, and you can compare it to the very male aggression of the other side, don't you think, Artie?
Yes, I think it's not just the anger that the other side expresses is tinged with panic at this point. There's a real sense of like, the calmer we get as we realize we're gaining confidence on our side, the more angry they get. So this isn't an even, we're just settling into like, all right, we're very confident, we're very comfortable, we don't even need to engage with you, we're very confident in what we have to say. And they're just realizing, oh shit, the ones who haven't already quietly slunk away. There's another thing is that I'm told by many of the women there who I got to meet, who told me that the crowd was much smaller than
I'm sure she's back already. Yeah, go on.
Yeah, the crowd of counter protesters that came to Brighton was much smaller than previous rallies, is what I'm told. And then I'm also told is really surprising because Brighton is considered sort of the
Well, I knew where he was going.
There's a dwindling group of people left at these to counter protest these rallies, and they're in a real state of panic because everyone else, all the kind of middle of the roaders, are all starting to walk away and realize that
Yes, it's not something you want to be.
I did a sort of estimate, a real sort of guesstimate on how many people that were there from, sort of our side, should we say. And I reckon it was between sort of about 400 to 500 is my guess. It's sort of, the crowd did swell throughout the afternoon, and then, it ebbed a bit by about 4, but it kept on growing. And there were, I liked how it was done. It it was majority women, and it was only women speaking. But there were a lot of men that had also come to support. A lot of gay men and a lot of younger men now were,
Yes.
came along. I was, the demographic is changing. There's more and more people who are sort of sitting up and saying, "This is wrong. This is wrong. I want you to find out what's going on."
And there's been, let me just quickly address one thing. There's been an effort to dismiss the event by people like Owen Jones because a few members of right-wing groups turned up. Artie, what's that noise? That's that noise
sorry.
again.
Sorry.
A few members of right-wing groups turned up because I think they have, they had a sniff of success with their, even though it wasn't a success, they completely spoiled the the drag queen story event protests by allowing the left to associate it with the far right. And now they're turning up here. And of course, people like Owen Jones are doing the exact same thing. And the thing, what I would warn these people about is guilt by association is a game we can play all day. The guy who was arrested, as I said, is someone who did criminal damage to some Israeli protests. Now, when you're
these are public events. Anyone can come to these events. So the idea that somebody showed up to this event, these are public events that anyone is welcome. You're going to get some people on the far right. You're going to get some people on the far left. You're going to get some anti-Semites on the other side. The idea that some people showed up to this event somehow means that therefore everyone at the event is tarnished by. I mean, you could just any event with hundreds of people there, you could just filter through it, find one you don't like, or find one who has views that your group doesn't like, and say, "Ha, the group is tainted." That's a desperate attempt to shut down the conversation. And that's also to signal to your people that you don't have to think about this. There was one person among the 500 who sucked. Therefore, you're allowed to never worry about this. This is an attempt
I think there's more
to shut down critical thinking.
I think there's even more. If thugs turn up on one side, it's going to, this is like a lot of those TRAs came pretty much prepared for aggro. They wanted aggro. They were kids who wanted a fight. The fight, where the police sort of got them, they were wanting a fight. They were pushing, they were shouting, they wanted a fight. So unfortunately, you have somewhere where some men want to come and fight. Some blokes are going to say, "Hey, there's a fight here. I'm going to come along." And of course, what's going to happen is that women are going to be caught in the middle.
But don't forget, the right-wing media showed up as media. They did not show up to start a fight. This was not some right-wing militia. This was people with cameras to film the event, which leads to the question, where was the left-wing media? Where was the centrist media?
Well, that's true.
The only media that came to a massive event was from the right, and then someone in the left-wing media is criticizing, hello, why didn't you bring your freaking cameras?
In fact, speaking, like Owen Jones wrote about it here, let me just share the screen, and I think this is an interesting thing he wrote. Hold on a moment. Sorry, it takes forever. StreamYard isn't very good at screen sharing. Yes, here it is. This is, oh no, sorry. This is actually, I got that wrong. This is actually the list of times Owen Jones has edited the Wikipedia entry for Israel. Sorry about that. Wrong thing. Whoops. That's what he used to do at Oxford. He used to edit the Wikipedia entry on Israel while he was at Oxford with Stuart Lee, another establishment stooge. So anyway, what was I going to say? Oh yes. Anything else we should say about the day? It was yes. I will say another thing about the. Can I just say one last thing about the right-wing charge? Someone else pointed out there's a guy. I think his name is Alphiza something. He's a YouTuber, and he wrote a brilliant thread about these guys, warning women to look out for them, to say they're not your friends, blah, 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 blah. And one of the things he pointed out is one of these guys, these right-wing guys, think women should be kind of like, chattels or something like that, like believe stuff that is the antithesis to what radical feminists believe. So people like Owen Jones and, Colon, our friend Colon, they can play this game as much as they want, but it's not gonna have any traction because these people believe a completely different thing to what the feminists believe. And also, my final point on this: our side was completely diverse. Their side, no black people at all. our side was diverse. So how dare you accuse our side of racism? So Owen Jones.
No, I mean it's obviously a sort of a silencing tactic, but also my point is that my arguments, any argument that I put forth in defence of women's spaces, they aren't simply for people who I like to hear them. I have enough confidence in my argument to make it to everyone. So if a bunch of right-wing blokes want to hear my argument, great, great. I'm like, I want my argument to be made to everyone, because everyone needs to say, oh yeah, because I think it's a persuasive, reasonable argument. I don't. I do understand the point of saying, oh no, you're smeared now, you're done, because if they could refute the arguments, they would, but they can't. So you have to just try and grasp a different straw, it's just another basic silencing tactic, using shame to silence. I mean, that is it, isn't it?
So let's recognize it for what it is.
Tough.
Yeah, let's recognize it for what it is, and move on, because it was a great day. The women who spoke were incredibly brave. They spoke in the face of the kind of aggression from people like Owen Jones. Owen Jones has as followers just an absolutely disgusting, misogynistic wail from their side all day. So God bless you,
and again,
you're doing a great job.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you very much. And I was very happy to go there, and I had a nice picture with her. As somebody said, "Oh look, it's Marilyn Monroe and Sue Pollard," which I think was a little bit cruel, but it wasn't too far off the mark. To be fair, she did look amazing.
Yeah. Well, she's looking great. I mean, the brilliant thing, and I hope that her thing she said about running against Eddie Izzard wasn't just a throwaway joke. I really want her to run against Eddie Izzard. That will be a crucial battle, and I think that she will walk it. No, she won't walk it. It will be a fight. It will be a fight. But my God, if to get that stuff out in the open, I believe Eddie Izzard is basically the UK's version of Rachel Dolezal. So to have Posey and Eddie head to head would be brilliant. It would be a wonderful thing to see. Shall we talk about the teacher with the big bazoingers?
I was about to say, Graham, yes. I find it like, the obvious parody that it turns out was not an obvious parody. When everyone saw it, they were like, "Oh, come on, this is like Graham. This is Graham and his hair stunt."
Yes, no. Exactly. Let's have a look at what we're talking about. This is the so-called trans teacher with large breasts while teaching classes at Canadian high school. Now, my favorite, the thing to look at there is the large circular saw. What could go wrong with this person as a woodwork teacher?
Unbelievable. I know the safety thing alone, but this is, of course, from my hometown of Toronto, and the local media in Toronto is treating it like. Sorry. And I just couldn't believe this is still not peaking people. How is this not peaking people? Well, it should be double peaking people. That's a joke. But
it's a double DD peaker.
Exactly. But it's unbelievable. This guy, I mean, unbelievable that the media is treating it like, now you may be reading that, a Toronto school is in the press. Yes. People are making fun of someone, and this is very, unfair to that person kind of thing.
And there's different
talking about.
One other person said there are different body types. Go ahead.
Yes,
Helen.
Different body types. Well, I saw that's exactly what happened, isn't it? The school district put out a statement saying, we don't discriminate based on and a whole list of gender identity, sort of mental health issues, and disability, etc., etc., etc. And right at the end, which I think was clearly tagged on, was body types and shapes, and you're like, oh, come on! Like,
he bought them. They're a thing that you strap onto your back. He's deliberately wearing tight jumpers so you can see the ridiculous nipples, and they still stood up for him.
And he didn't just buy them; he bought them from a sex emporium in the cross-dresser section. You have to know that you're fetishistic And you have to know that you're a cross-dresser, and you have to know that you are buying a sex accessory when you purchase this and put it onto your body. There is no ambiguity. This person is not an alien from outer space. This is a man who knows that he has a fetish, who knows that he is spending money on fetish websites to indulge his fetish, and he knows he is coming into the classroom wearing his fetish costume that he bought from the fetish store that said this is for cross-dressers,
Defend that, Billy Bragg. Defend that, Owen Jones. Where are you with your fucking right-wing slurs? Defend this. This is actually, like, I have nothing to do with the right wing. I don't bring forth any of their arguments. But this is what you're fighting for. This literally is what you're fighting for. Defend it.
Yeah.
But will they know? They will ignore it. They will ignore it because it is indefensible.
Well, I want to let's talk about. This is it is indefensible, and what's more, can I just one of the things I find I actually was getting a little bit upset by this story yesterday because sometimes I find this fight a little bit frightening. Okay, and the reason I found it frightening, there are two things together. The first thing is that the school has doubled down. The school has said people are this, people are that. We need to be diverse, and they're letting this guy continue to teach children. That's the first thing that I found a bit upsetting and a bit frightening because if you
and I know you're on thing, but can I just jump in on that? The fact that the school is doubled down is the real story. Because it could still turn out somehow that this man is taking the piss. This man is trying to sabotage his own career. Any of that, it doesn't matter because once he did it, it's how everyone reacted, which is to take it seriously and say that, yes, he set the bar so low that anything can be acceptable now. And everybody got in line and said, yes, we agree. So that's the real story. It's with the school and the media and how everyone reacted. That's the real story here.
Yes,
anyways,
yes.
Go on,
And the second aspect that I find even more upsetting is that, as you can see by certainly the picture on the left, it was the kids who were the whistleblowers on this. And what I find really worrying and really scary and upsetting is are we really not going to stand up for these kids? Are we really, are they really going to send us these photographs and we're going to say, yeah, that's completely normal, kids? Well,
we're not, but some people are, they? Like, they really are.
Yeah. And it's like, it's like, sorry, Helen, go on. I'll
I can understand. I can understand getting upset by it because sometimes you look at it and you're just laughing. You're laughing at the absurdity of it. But the thing is, it is real, and it's affecting people. It's affecting people's lives. It's affecting everyone, and there are people just promoting it who will ignore it. It's the cowardice that gets me. It is the cowardice of Owen Jones and Billy Bragg who will smear women and then they will just ignore
Philip Pullman.
Studiously ignore it.
And if there's anyone watching this show right now who is critical of us, who thinks they're on the side of the TRAs and is looking at this and is ignoring it right this effing minute, if you're watching this and you're too busy trying to find things to criticize about me and Helen and Graham, and you're not looking at the big picture of this asshole on the screen and saying, oh shit, that is a problem, then you are fucking fucked. I'm so angry about this.
Yeah, absolutely. Let me use that to move on to another thing I wanted to bring up this week, which is I believe that Graham Norton called J.K. Rowling problematic in a recent piece. Now, here's the thing I wanted to say about Graham Norton. Same thing I'd say about Matt Lucas and David Walliams, right? These are three people who I helped make famous. Graham Norton was famously our Waterboys singing priest in Father Ted. That was probably the first time people had heard of him. Then there was Matt Lucas and David Walliams. I directed the pilot of Little Britain, and it was my name that got them through the door. And here's my question to Graham Norton. If you think J.K. Rowling is problematic, say why. Stop just pretending. Stop smearing her name, Graham, and then not saying what your problem is. Because we want to hear what your problem is. Do you think men should be allowed access to women-only spaces? If so, say it. Stop smearing women, Graham Norton, Matt Lucas. Stop smearing women and not saying what you actually believe. I saw Philip Pullman do the same thing. Philip Pullman saw a photograph of that thug being taken away from Posey's thing and said, I despise transphobia because this guy reposted a photograph of a violent thug attacking women. I despise transphobia. And,
did you see somebody posted an image? Yeah, sorry, Greg. But there's a funny image. Somebody posted an image of the Tiananmen Square incident with a man standing in front of the tanks.
I think. Yeah.
And Philip Pullman chimes in. He's like, "I despise jaywalking."
yeah, exactly. But it's like these people, and I want to say Graham Norton's name again because I'm really angry at Graham Norton for this, and I hope it gets picked up by someone as a celebrity ding dong. Because he really needs to address it. He needs to say what the problem is. And let me ask a further question. I'm going to share the screen again. If the fact that sorry, I've done it wrong. Give me 1 second.
But it is, isn't it? It's what we've said before. It is a movement that refuses to state what rights it's fighting for on the grounds that it might incriminate itself. It's much easier because actually stating what they're fighting for will make people say, "What? That's it."
Here's
many women's changing rooms, so they can't say that. So it's all smears and hints.
Yes.
And
And here's my question. Hints. Here's my question to Graham Norton. The man on the ground there is a 74-year-old gay elder named Fred Sargent. He was absolutely instrumental in the rise of gay civil rights in America. He co-founded the first Pride March in New York City, and he was at Stonewall every night of those riots. And he's been beaten up because he had a sign that said "gay, not queer." He's beaten up by gay tourists who have taken over the LGBT movement. Graham Norton, will you condemn the treatment that Fred Sargent got? Matt Lucas, will you condemn the treatment that Fred Sargent got? No, you won't, because I've been cancelled and my voice doesn't reach these people. And even if it does, they pretend it hasn't. But, we'll one day you won't be able to hide from these questions. But for the moment, I will say, if you do know about this, Matt Lucas, Graham Norton, David Williams, and you're not condemning it, then what is wrong with you? Why have you given up on gay people? It's shocking.
Yeah.
Shocking.
And the excuse that you're talking about something else doesn't fly because this is the issue. I think a lot of these people try to say, well, I'm just talking about something else. Every time an instance of TRAs behaving terribly, they're like, well, that's something else. It's like this whack-a-mole. I don't want to hear that. The founder of the gay pride marches, a man who, one of the last living survivors of the Stonewall riots, has been beaten at a gay pride march by straight people and robbed and spat on and hospitalized. This should be front page news across the world. This should be on the cover of the New York Times. This is a massive title shift. Honest to God, the man who founded gay pride marches is now getting beaten, robbed, hospitalized, and spat on at gay pride marches. This is an emergency for gay people. It just doesn't get more shocking than
it does get more shocking.
And it's not even making the news. When Ben Jackson breaks down and cries and says she can't believe she has to fight this fight again and say the same things she said in 1970 when she was the first woman to join the Gay Liberation Front. My God, it's so true. You feel it so strongly these days when you're seeing gay people being violently beaten at gay pride marches by straight people. And everybody's just acting like it's normal. It's just
and someone like Owen Jones does a 10-minute rant about, or just don't ask.
Don't say gay. Don't say gay. His solution is that gay people should kind of go back in the closet, so they won't make straight tourists uncomfortable when they think they're part of the LGBT community. They're coming for you, Artie. It's back to the old days. Back to the old days. Thank God they're cracking down on you guys again. This is becoming like a Goon Show episode. There was something I was gonna. There was also something we were. Sorry, Helen. Were you about to?
No, I'm still just. Sometimes when you put it like that, Artie, when you put it like that, you think, what? How is it not front page news? How is it that people aren't immediately saying, oh this is terrible. Obviously, this is terrible, but they're not. They're cheering it on.
Stonewall. Have Stonewall said something about this veteran of Stonewall being attacked? No.
Who knows? We're all blocked.
Yeah. but also, Stonewall are all about straight cross-dressing rights. That's who they worship. you know, and Fred Sargent is in the way of that love affair. So, you know, they will only mention him to condemn him. So, you know.
I know. Homosexuality is an embarrassment to these people now because they've moved on to let's all pretend biological sex doesn't exist. And homosexuality depends on biological sex. So we are all just a giant fucking inconvenience in their money-making racket.
Fucking thing, isn't it? It's like it's the weirdest thing.
It's just, I can't
despite
believe it.
Despite the fact that I've seen it, I've like literally witnessed it happening, I'm still sitting here thinking, how did it happen?
Yeah, I know. When like the bazoingers, the teacher with the bazooka. I love saying this. It's brilliant being able to talk like this because it's about a crazy man. But like the teacher with the you know, like we all had the same thing. We thought surely this one isn't real. And can you imagine how normies who don't really follow this issue see something like their brains probably just kind of don't access it because it's like surely this is just a joke, you know? But no,
not
it's
in
real.
Toronto. Apparently the brains are like, yes, this is normal now.
Did you see that? Someone photoshopped a huge pair of boobs onto Trudeau at the Queen's funeral, which I thought was great.
But it's a funny joke, but it's also a serious question. Like, really, if that were to happen, how far would the press go? You know?
If it's okay in front of those kids, why wouldn't it be okay at that funeral?
Anything's possible.
Hopefully, maybe Justin Trudeau will bring him as a guest to the next state funeral he goes to. That would be a good representative of kind of Helen. What were you going to say there? Sorry.
Well, because you know, it's just occurred to me that despite the fact that we've seen it happen, I'm still amazed sometimes, and I still think, how did it happen? And so you can see why it is so difficult for your average person on the street to think, like, you know, it sounds too extreme, or that's not happening, because that couldn't be happening because that sounds insane. So
Dennis Kavanagh, hello.
I was cruising for sex in the same park as Artie.
We've done that.
Oh, okay, damn it.
We found each other.
It's funny because it's true.
That's right. Hi
Hey,
guys.
Hello.
Artie, you arrived at a good time because one of the things that we haven't spoken about, Helen, I hope I didn't cut across something there, but since we have him briefly, let's quickly ask him. Alison Bailey's appeal. Are you excited?
I was about to mention it.
I'm extremely excited about that, and I thought there was a couple of significant things in the announcement. The first significant thing was, did you notice Garden Court are not appealing, despite them saying on the day, we intend to appeal this. We're going to show her. We're going to get her. Au contraire.
Great.
So they're stuck now. They're stuck with you have victimized a lesbian, and they're stuck with aggravated damages on that basis. So I'm psyched for this appeal. I'd love to see what the grounds of appeal are. I think it's going to be a question as to what the word induced means in a statute and whether you give that a wide meaning or a narrow meaning. But good on Alison. She's not, you heard the lady.
I was quite impressed with that. She didn't just take the one win that she got and walked off. She was like, nope, not having this.
And
so
you remember how,
because Alison Bailey, for people who are just catching up, she sued both Stonewall and Garden Court Chambers, her former employer, because Stonewall had induced Garden Court Chambers to harass her and discriminate against her. And the courts found that she had been discriminated against by her employers, but it wasn't Stonewall's. Stonewall wasn't culpable in inducing them or something like that.
That's right. I mean, I always thought that Stonewall got off very luckily because, as you might remember when we spoke about it, I pointed out that detriment 4, there were 5 detriments, 2 were upheld. Detriment 4 was the Stonewall complaint to Garden Court Chambers. And so the judge said you were wrong to uphold that complaint. And I think I said at the time, I always thought Stonewall got off pretty lucky there, given that they initiated that detriment. I'll tell you what, I wish her good luck getting Stonewall, and I'll tell you someone else who I bet does, Garden Court Chambers. Let's give him a ring. Let's get him on the show.
Yeah, maybe they'll chuck in some advice, you know.
Send in the crowdfunder.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember. Was there any other legal thing this week? I met Rachel Mead earlier in the week. Wonderful Rachel Mead, who is being put through the punishment process at Social Work England. So she's got all her stuff together, and she's working with some very good people. I'm not sure if we can say who she's working with.
I wouldn't just for the time. Yep.
Yeah, but
just watch this space. It's not a great big secret. It's just the way litigation runs sometimes.
Sure. But that's going to be good. I think that's going to be another. Basically, I just love the way they keep trapping themselves in court. It's like the last place they want to be is in a courtroom. The last place, because suddenly there's nowhere to hide. You know, the way that people like Owen Jones can hide. You know, there's no corners. It's you're in court.
You have to answer the questions. You have to answer the questions that are put to you.
That's been the story of this week, to my mind. I saw a tweet earlier, and it was about the Irish Times piece where there was a straight woman saying, "I'm a gay man trapped in a straight woman's body. It's just kill me now," you know. And somebody quote tweeted it from the other side and said, "Why are all the responses here so transphobic and negative?" It's like, because people are seeing what you are and they're listening to you. And the more sunlight we get on this, you know, it's much the same as in Brighton. The more people see of what the other side are actually like, the more they say, these guys are extremists. They're nuts.
Well, you know, we always said this, you know, like the Denton's document, which I believe has been wiped from the website it was originally on. Really? Luckily, there's still an archive of it, but it's very interesting. Yeah, it's very interesting. They felt the need to remove it, but the Denton's document, for those who are just joining into this fight, was advice given to activists who were trying. And it was literally for this reason. It was activists who are trying to get through policies that are unpopular with the public, and the advice given was things like avoid the media, and for the last however many years, trans rights activists have been playing the media like a fiddle, because what they do is someone says, "Oh, you know, will you come in and speak about this?" They say yes. And then they find out that, I don't know, Helen Joyce or Kathleen Stock is coming in too. And then they say, "No, I don't want to do it. I don't feel safe with these two." And then they cancel the thing, which is great for the BBC, because the BBC doesn't want any scrutiny on this either. You know, like, have you ever seen a movement advance so far so quickly in the dark? You know?
Yeah, but this is what happens when you suppress the normal feedback mechanisms in a democracy. Because in a democracy, the way we avoid tyranny and problems is we have freedom of speech. People can say what they think, and you get feedback. Now, this movement makes a point of silencing those mechanisms, and those are the mechanisms we use in democracies to call people out when they're going down the wrong pathway. So the trans activism has always depended, one, on lies, but two, on silencing techniques, and you can't have one without the other, because otherwise people spot the lie. And you know, I think the way things are going, they're going to need a lot of support dogs. It might be a good time to open a support dog kennel.
I think the idea of silencing and lies has gotten as far as it has with the general broader public, just because I think a lot of people on the progressive side of things have just rested on their laurels and come to think that, like, some people who are, if they're delivering a message that is packaged as progressive, they can just accept it plainly. But now the broader public is starting to see that that's not the case with trans rights. It's not just gay rights 2.0. You can't just understand how this is. Their silencing tactics have worked so far to prevent the broader public from seeing what the criticisms are, but those criticisms are disappearing. But I'm really shocked at how many people in the broader public are taking so long to realize that their sort of template in their minds of how a new issue plays out doesn't apply here.
Let me tell you an interesting.
That every progressive issue, every human rights cause has the same model, and this is just the next one in the list. That's been hacked. That paradigm no longer applies, you know?
Yes, very true. And, you know, like the other great thing is there's all these moments that I can't imagine that they could last too long in terms of the cognitive dissonance it must create in some people. Although, as we know, cognitive dissonance seems to be a pain a lot of people are perfectly able to endure.
Yeah.
But the interesting thing about the other day when I went to Posey's thing, I met two gay guys who I mentioned this just because of all the shit that's been thrown at us this week. Black guy and a white guy, very, very nice guys, and they said that they sat down with a straight couple who they knew, who they'd been friends with, I think, for something like 8 to 15 years. I can't remember, but it was at least 8 years, I think. And they said, well, you know, we're kind of on the GC side. And these straight couple immediately did this, right? and they talked and they talked about it for an hour, and then after a while, they just left. They were just the straight couple just left without saying goodbye, and they haven't spoken to them since. You know,
I had that. Yeah, yeah. I chatted to one of those chaps as well. He had a very sweet Hogwarts T-shirt on. He was very nice, young chap, and he really was bemused. And he said, like, it's been so shocking to him. You know, his parents didn't take him coming out as gay very well at all. And so, you know, he said it's the most astonishing thing that it's taken him a long time to get into the headspace where he's kind of okay with being gay from the sort of negativity that he got from his parents. And now he's getting negativity from his straight mates.
Well, that's why it's been so brilliant, the kind of influx of gay men into this fight, because you can't shame gay men. Like, shame has been the weapon that they have used.
Shameless.
Exactly. Look at where we're
Look what we're doing. Yeah.
Look at where we're
Totally. But
Did you bring the poppers?
I've got loads of poppers.
Okay, good.
But I would just make this point in terms of what you were saying, Helen, about the guy being like, "Oh God, not again." I was talking in a gay male group, load of Aussie guys, New Zealand, that kind of area, and they were all really, really, really upset about what happened to Fred Sargent this week. And a lot of these were veteran AIDS activists and guys. Some of them had been kicked out of their houses as kids. And, you know, without wishing to do the woe is me as a community, because we all face difficulties. But I do think particularly for a lot of gay guys at the moment, particularly got what's happened this past week, it's really woken a lot of people up and it's bittersweet because lots of people are now on the pitch, which is good. But the sadness is lots of people. I spoke to a guy who's quite tearful, and he's just like, I can't believe I'm going to have to come and fight this. And it's like, well, they're pushing Fred Sargent to the floor, mate. I'm sorry. I think you are going to have to come and fight this, whether we like it or not. And, you know, and they're doing that. And it's not just gay men. You know, Kate Harris has got to sit in a tribunal and face questions which I consider to be insulting, which no other community would have to face that. No one would put someone in court and say, you're not really black, or you're not really Indian, or
whatever.
But
they were insulting and quite homophobic, I felt.
I thought too, Helen.
It was just terrible. The other thing, I want to say in terms of, you know, people saying how they've been affected by this. I met a chap in the pub who I was really moved by, because he said that his daughter had been captured by this ideology. And he said, you know, it was one of the worst things that they've ever faced as a family, like a teenage girl identifying as he, you know, sort of going down that whole route. And he said, it's actually broken me. And as he was saying it, you know, his eyes were welling up with tears, and it was really moving and really, really upsetting to see, you know, the actual effect on real people in real time. He said that, you know, they actually took it out of school and sent it to a local girls' school, and she has now desisted from. You know, he said it was hard. It was hard, but they threw everything they could at this. They concentrated on nothing else because it was so shocking and frightening.
No one on the other side wants to talk about what this actually does to families. Everyone's happy under the rainbow. Everyone's got a Richter's face grin. No one wants to talk about detransitioners. No one wants to talk about families broken apart, like you've just highlighted there, Helen, or emotionally knackered gay men, or lesbians breaking down on the stand. The only feelings that get talked about are the feelings of the other side to their scientifically undetectable, entirely self-declared gender identity. That's the only feeling that matters. And screw the rest of us. So do you think it is important that we say, actually, here's the damage, here's the harm of what you're doing? And it's important to amplify these stories.
It's horrible. And, you know, you hear about, like, it just starts so small where a child just wants to, you know, play around with pronouns or something. But it's so accelerated now that it's an emergency, as Abigail Schreier said in an interview. If your child it becomes convinced that they need to change sex and they need to be medicalized, this is an all hands on deck emergency, and you need to take them out of school. You need to take them out of all of their friends groups, and you need to probably quit both your jobs if both parents are breadwinners and move to another state or another part of the country. Completely start over, because it's like a disease. That's just like a body snatcher situation where you have to completely isolate this person and move them to some entirely new place. It's so serious. And it
was-
starts so
yeah.
innocuously, you know.
And
Yeah.
and there was a very interesting, let's remember that these efforts by parents are attempts to keep the family together, right?
Attempts to keep the family together and attempts
It's
to
always-
keep children's medical health intact, you know.
Yes, and
Yeah.
whereas queer theorists and people like Jeffrey Marsh and stuff, their thing is to separate people. There was that woman Tina Traster who wrote a piece for Psychology Today where she said she was talking about the high numbers of homeless people, and she found out that these kids were homeless not because the parents were disgusted that they were trans and threw them out, but because when the kids said "I'm a girl," the parents didn't throw a fucking party, and they walked out saying because they've been fed lies that anyone who doesn't affirm their identity hates them. Right, which is why J.K. Rowling now young kids are being told that J.K. Rowling hates them. These extraordinary, reckless lies. These bastards.
And they're being told to run away. They're being encouraged. I know
Yeah.
somebody who was encouraged by professionals to leave school, drop out of school, run away from home, and go move into a homeless shelter in downtown of the city. And it was like, are you mad?
What?
Just because she was confused about gender? Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's extraordinary. And what's again something I'm finding a little bit frightening because we're coming up to the end. I want to just fit this in before we finish off. But the thing that I really shocked me yesterday was PayPal coming after the Free Speech Union. That is, I was so relieved because I thought, please don't let politicians ignore it. Joanna Cherry tweeted about it today. I'm so glad she did. And I really think, Joe or Jen, if you're watching this, perhaps we can put the link to who we complained to in the thing, because this is really Silicon Valley controlling freedom of speech in the UK.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I mean, they've already done. Twitter has already done it by launching basically a cult of feminists.
Yeah,
on their
and
platform.
please note that this was orchestrated because they did the FSU, they did Gays Against Groomers, they did Toby Young's personal, they did another Toby Young connected thing, some sort of organization he runs. These were all done together. This is, and I noticed Gays Against Groomers just got 401, I think it's called in the US status, so not-for-profit status. So they get the status the Monday, whatever it was, and the Tuesday this happens. This is a direct retaliation to organizations like gay people standing up, the Free Speech Union standing up for women. That's what this is. It's a retaliation
Against gay people and freedom of speech advocates.
Yeah.
Can we just listen for a minute to what this sounds like? You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely,
Yeah.
Absolutely. I saw an interesting thing about Jerry Sadowitz, who got banned from the Pleasance Theatre. Someone was saying the reason this is how that happened. They said basically the staff of the Pleasance, who are usually in the old days were the lifeblood of the Fringe, are now so poisoned by ideology that they just live for banning these people. And if they go to the Pleasance, who've got about 7 or 8 or 9 shows running at a time, and they say, we're not coming into work tomorrow, they lose all those shows. So Sadowitz had to go so the other shows could stay on. These are the kind of people who are running organizations, activists inside every organization that we have, including, I think, Hat-Trick Productions. I believe it's activists within Hat-Trick Productions who are making it so that we can't make the Father Ted music.
And I forget who made this observation. I think it was a radical feminist was saying, don't underestimate how much jealousy is going on here. People who would never achieve what Jerry Sadowitz would achieve in his comedy.
Yes.
This is their chance of influence, and this is their power, And you get that with every dictatorship. The little grass who's prepared to grass up their neighbor, who's prepared to have a list to take down someone out of jealousy.
Well, I always point this out, but like a lot of the people who I've had coming against me are failed comedy writers. Aidan Comerford in Ireland, Alan Driscoll, who sent me a blackmail threat about 2 days ago, which I'm trying to figure out how to get that complaint to Melbourne police, because I can't use my local police because they often work on behalf of lunatic trans rights activists like Alan Driscoll. So if anyone has any ideas about how I can go about that, but I'm serious this time. He actually literally blackmailed me using my wife's name to do so. So if anyone has, Dennis, if you know how,
very serious criminal offence.
Good.
I'll talk to you afterward.
Yeah, I'll send you the screen grab. Yeah. So listen, I think we're up to 50 minutes. These two guys are just desperate to get away. Yeah, that was a good one. Hopefully next
That was nice.
We were in
And
the
how
middle of
lovely
talking to Helen.
to see
Yeah, Kellen was talking
Dennis.
when we cut you off. Helen, we cut you off? I'm so sorry.
Did I
No,
cut you
no,
off?
it's fine.
Oh,
No,
sorry.
no,
When we jumped in.
No, I'm absolutely. I've got plenty of time to talk. It was lovely to see Dennis. Actually, I'm really glad you joined.
Yeah.
Lovely to see you, mate.
Yeah. What a treat.
I'm literally just meeting Dennis for the first time ever in person.
It's going to be wild.
Yeah.
It's going to be wild.
Really nice.
Watch this.
Yeah.
Don't expect Artie on
No,
next
no,
Send
week.
us
no, no,
photographs. Send us
Yeah, for a
photographs.
big one. We'll do it. Yeah.
All
Watch
right.
this space.
Bye-bye, everybody. I will see you next time for
hello.
another show. I'm sure we'll have another one next week.
Yeah, like and subscribe. And
Like and
if you're
subscribe.
In the
See you
UK,
guys.
send a DM to me if you feel like visiting. I'm in town for a while, so.
Yes, I'll see you very soon, Artie, myself. All right. Bye, everybody.
Bye.